Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Manhattan, New York. Sterling Enterprises Corporate Tower. The elevator's silence was suffocating. 23 floors of pure agony, while Olivia Harper tried not to look at the man beside her. The same man who had just fired half the marketing department on a random Tuesday morning. Alexander Sterling, CEO, son of the founder, and apparently, according to office whispers, completely heartless. The elevator stopped on the 15th floor. The doors opened like theater curtains, revealing the lobby of the company's holiday party. The sound of conversations and laughter invaded the aroma of catered hors d'oeuvres and soft jazz playing in the background. Olivia took a deep breath. Just a few more hours, and she could go home, eat ice cream straight from the container, and binge-watch reality TV until she forgot her job was hanging by a thread. Sterling. Alexander's deep voice made her freeze at the elevator exit. She turned, expecting another critique of her quarterly report, or maybe an ultimatum about sales numbers. "Yes, sir?" He looked at her strangely, as if calculating something. Before he could respond, a familiar voice shouted from across the lobby, "Olivia, sweetie." Olivia's blood ran cold. Aunt Marlene. Of course she'd be here. After all, she'd worked in HR for 15 years and never missed a company party. And of course, she'd brought the full family interrogation squad. Questions about dating, marriage, kids, and why a 28-year-old woman was still wasting her best years. "Honey, come here." Aunt Marlene waved energetically, drawing half the office's attention. "I want you to meet Margaret from payroll's son. Has a doctor." Olivia felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Co-workers, bosses, the catering staff. Everyone waiting to witness the next episode of Olivia Harper and her non-existent love life. 5 seconds. She had 5 seconds before Aunt Marlene arrived with the doctor in tow. 4, 3, 2. Her brain went into complete panic mode. 1. "Oh, Aunt Marlene, sorry, but I already have a fiancé." The words flew out of her mouth before she could stop them. The entire lobby seemed to stop breathing. Even the jazz music seemed to lower its volume. "Fiancé," Aunt Marlene shouted loud enough for the entire building to hear. "Where is he?" Olivia felt cold sweat running down her back. Without thinking, her finger pointed to the first person she saw. Alexander Sterling, the company's CEO, the man who had just stepped out of the same elevator as her, the most arrogant, cold, and impossible human being she knew. It's him. The silence that followed was so profound, Olivia was sure she could hear her heart exploding. Alexander looked at her as if she had completely lost her sanity, which, technically, she had. Him? Aunt Marlene blinked several times, as if trying to process the information. "The boss?" "Yeah, surprise." Olivia smiled so forcedly her cheeks began to hurt. That's when Alexander did something no one expected. He smiled back. Not just any smile, a slow, devastating smile that transformed his entire face from Arctic tundra to something that belonged on a magazine cover. "Hello, Mrs." His voice was smooth as whiskey as he extended his hand to Aunt Marlene. Harper. Marlene Harper, Olivia's aunt. She practically vibrated with excitement as she shook his hand. "Oh my goodness, I can't believe Olivia kept you a secret." Olivia watched in horror as Alexander, the same man who once made an intern cry for bringing him the wrong coffee, turned on charm she didn't even know he possessed. "Well, we wanted to keep things private until we were sure," he said, his arm suddenly wrapping around Olivia's waist and pulling her against his side. She could smell his cologne, expensive, woodsy, and unfortunately very appealing. You know how office relationships can be complicated. Office romance. Aunt Marlene clapped her hands together. Like a romantic movie. Olivia felt Alexander's hand tighten slightly on her waist. When she looked up at him, his steel-gray eyes held a dangerous glint that seemed to say, "You started this, Harper. Now we're both in it. When's the wedding?" Someone from the crowd called out, "Are you moving in together?" Another voice added, "Have you picked a venue?" The questions came rapid fire, and Olivia felt the walls closing in. This was supposed to be a simple lie to get Aunt Marlene off her back, not a full-blown performance for the entire company. "We're still figuring out the details," Alexander said smoothly, his thumb making small circles on her hip that made her brain short-circuit. "But I can tell you that Olivia makes me very happy." The crowd collectively sighed, and Olivia was pretty sure she saw her co-worker Lauren actually swoon. "You know what?" Aunt Marlene announced to the growing audience. "This calls for a celebration, everyone. The drinks are on me tonight." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Olivia watched in mounting horror as her simple lie snowballed into the company event of the year. As people began to disperse, chattering excitedly about the unexpected announcement, Alexander leaned down to whisper in her ear. His breath was warm against her skin, sending involuntary shivers down her spine. "My office. 5 minutes. We need to talk." Then he was gone, leaving Olivia standing alone in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by the wreckage of what used to be her quiet, anonymous work life. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, Sophia. "Mom just called. Marlene told her everything. Shay's planning the wedding. Call me now." Olivia closed her eyes and counted to 10. When she opened them, Lauren was standing in front of her with wide eyes and an enormous grin. "Girl," Lauren whispered, "you have been holding out on us. How long have you and Mr. Ice King been?" "It's complicated," Olivia muttered, already heading toward the elevators. "Complicated how?" Lauren pressed. "He looked at you like you were the last slice of pizza on earth." Olivia jabbed the elevator button with more force than necessary. "Just complicated." As the elevator doors closed, Olivia caught sight of her reflection in the polished metal. Her auburn hair was slightly mussed, her cheeks flushed, and her lips parted in what looked suspiciously like anticipation rather than panic. The elevator climbed toward the executive floor, and with each floor, Olivia's sense of impending doom grew stronger. She had 5 minutes to figure out how to explain to Alexander Sterling, her boss, her supposed fiancé, and the man who held her career in his perfectly manicured hands, that she had just accidentally engaged them both in the lie of the century. The elevator dinged softly as it reached the 23rd floor. Game over, Olivia thought as the doors slid open. But as she walked down the hallway toward Alexander's corner office, she couldn't shake the memory of how his hand had felt on her waist, or the way his eyes had lit up when he smiled at her. Maybe, just maybe, this disaster might turn into something interesting after all. Or maybe she was about to get fired in the most spectacular way possible. Either way, Olivia Harper was about to find out what happened when you accidentally engaged yourself to the most powerful man in the building. The mahogany door to his office loomed ahead. Olivia realized that in about 30 seconds, her life was either going to get very complicated or very short. She knocked twice and waited. "Come in. Here goes nothing," she thought, and stepped into the lion's den. Alexander Sterling's office was exactly what you'd expect from a man who probably had ice water running through his veins instead of blood. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a desk that could double as a landing strip for small aircraft, and awards lining the walls like trophies from corporate warfare. Olivia stood in the doorway, suddenly feeling like she was about to face a firing squad. Alexander was behind his desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking like head stepped out of a cologne advertisement titled "Devastatingly Handsome CEOs Who Could Ruin Your Life." "Close the door," he said without looking up from his computer. She did. The soft click sounded like the final nail in her career coffin. "So," Alexander finally looked at her, leaning back in his chair with the kind of calm that made her skin crawl. "Fiancé. I can explain. I'm listening." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "This should be fascinating." Olivia sat down, trying to channel confidence she absolutely did not feel. "My aunt has been trying to set me up with every eligible bachelor in Manhattan since I turned 25. She works in HR, she knows everyone's personal business, and she's relentless. So, you were the first person I saw, and my brain short-circuited. And now the entire company thinks we're engaged." "Yes. And your family thinks we're engaged. Apparently my mom is already planning the wedding, so yes." Alexander was quiet for a long moment, his steel-gray eyes studying her face like she was a particularly interesting puzzle. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Harper? Probably destroyed my career. Possibly." He stood up, walking around to lean against the front of his desk, arms crossed, but maybe not. That wasn't what Shed expected him to say. "What do you mean? I have a proposition for you." "Oh no, what kind of proposition?" "The kind where we both get what we want." He pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolling through what looked like text messages. "I've received 14 texts in the last 10 minutes, half from board members congratulating me, half from women I've been avoiding asking when they can meet my mysterious fiancé." "Women you've been avoiding?" "I'm 32 years old, Harper. Am single, wealthy, and according to Forbes, one of the most eligible bachelors in New York. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to have every social interaction analyzed as a potential romantic connection?" Olivia blinked. "Are you seriously complaining about being rich and attractive?" "I'm complaining about not being able to focus on my work without someone's daughter or niece or friend being thrown at me at every charity gala, business dinner, or board meeting. So, what are you suggesting?" Alexander moved closer, his presence somehow taking up all the oxygen in the room. "We make this work for both of us. You need your family off your back. I need mine off mine. We pretend to be engaged for a few months, attend some events together, make it look believable, then have a very amicable, very public breakup. You want to fake a relationship? I want to fake an engagement. There's a difference." Olivia's mind was racing. What's in it for me besides not getting fired? Promotion, senior marketing director, your own team, a salary increase that would make your head spin. Her jaw dropped. "You're bribing me. I'm offering you a mutually beneficial arrangement." "You're talented, Harper. Your campaign proposals are innovative. Your market analysis is spot on. And you've been stuck in middle management because Jenkins is an idiot who takes credit for your work." "How do you know about Jenkins?" "I know everything that happens in my company, including the fact that you've been carrying his department for the past 2 years. This was insane. All of it." "What would we have to do?" "Attend events together. A few dinners, maybe a charity gala or two. My grandmother's 80th birthday party next month. That's non-negotiable. Shed never forgive me if I missed it. We'd need to look comfortable together, like we actually like each other. That might be the hardest part of this entire arrangement." For the first time since Shed known him, Alexander Sterling actually laughed. It was a rich, warm sound that completely transformed his face. "Ouch, Harper. And here I thought we had such a lovely moment downstairs. That was panic and survival instinct. Well, you're going to need to work on your acting skills because my grandmother has a sixth sense about these things. She'll see right through us if we're not convincing." Olivia stood up, pacing to the window. The city sparkled below them all, lights and possibilities, and probably 1,000 people making better life choices than she was about to make. This is crazy. Completely. It could backfire spectacularly. Most likely. I could end up hating you even more than I already do. "I'm wounded," he said, smiling when he said it. She turned back to face him. "What happens if we get caught?" "We don't get caught. We're both intelligent adults who can maintain a professional arrangement. And when it's over, clean break, no hard feelings. You keep your promotion, I get 6 months of peace from well-meaning matchmakers." Olivia looked at him, really looked at him. Without the usual scowl he wore around the office, without the intimidating CEO armor, he almost looked human, tired. Maybe like he carried more weight than just running a multi-billion-dollar company. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "You could have picked anyone in that lobby." Something flickered across his face, too quick for her to identify. "You picked me first, remember?" That's not an answer. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're the only person in this building who isn't afraid to argue with me. I'm terrified of you." "No, you're not. Intimidated maybe, but not afraid. You called me an arrogant, heartless corporate robot to my face last month. You heard that? I was standing right behind you." Olivia's cheeks flamed. "Why didn't you fire me?" "Because you were right." He moved back to his desk, pulling out a contract from his drawer. "I had legal draw this up while you were coming up here." "You had a fake engagement contract drafted in 5 minutes? I have very efficient lawyers, and I always plan for contingencies." She took the papers, scanning the terms. It was thorough. covering everything from public appearances to social media posts to what would happen if either party wanted out early. Clause 15, she read aloud. No physical contact beyond what is necessary for public appearances. I thought that would make you more comfortable. It does. She kept reading. 6-month term, renewable by mutual consent, weekly briefings on upcoming events, separate living arrangements maintained at all times. Any questions? About 1,000, but they all boil down to one. Are we really doing this? That depends. Do you want to spend the next 5 years explaining to your family why you're still single, or do you want to run the marketing department? Olivia looked at the contract again. The salary number made her dizzy. She could pay off her student loans, help her parents with their mortgage, maybe even take a real vacation for the first time in 3 years. I have conditions. I'm listening. No one at work knows this is fake. If we're doing this, we're selling it completely. Agreed. I get input on any events we attend. I'm not showing up to find out you volunteered us for some corporate retreat in the Hamptons. Fair. And I wanted in writing that this promotion isn't contingent on the fake engagement. If I do good work, I keep the job regardless. Alexander studied her face. Done. Anything else? Yeah. She looked him directly in the eye. If you ever make me feel like an employee who's being paid to play pretend girlfriend, this deal is off immediately. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe respect. Understood. Olivia took the pen he offered and signed her name at the bottom of the contract. So, she said, handing it back to him, when do we start, fiancé? Right now. He glanced at his watch. We're having dinner tonight. We are? Your Aunt Marlene just texted me. Apparently she gave your mother my number. And your mother invited us to dinner at her place in Brooklyn. 7 o'clock. Olivia's stomach dropped. You're kidding. I never kid about meeting the parents, Harper. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Hope you're ready to meet your fake future in-laws. This is happening way too fast. Welcome to the Harper Family Express, apparently. He paused at the door. By the way, what's my favorite food? How would I know? We're engaged, sweetheart. You should probably know these things. The endearment rolled off his tongue like he'd been using it for years. Something fluttered in Olivia's stomach that she absolutely did not want to examine too closely. Italian, she said quickly. You love Italian food. Good choice. What's yours? Thai. Perfect. What else do I need to know about your family? They're loud. They ask too many personal questions, and they're going to love you because you have a pulse and a steady income. Sounds delightful. Alexander. He turned back to her. Yeah? Thank you for not firing me. Thank me after you meet my grandmother, he said. You might change your mind. As he left, Olivia sank back into the chair, staring at the contract in her hands. She had just agreed to fake an engagement with the most intimidating man she'd ever met. This was either going to be the best decision of her life or the most spectacular disaster. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Mom bought champagne. Dad's getting out the good china. Please tell me you know what you're doing. Olivia typed back, not even a little bit. But as she looked out at the city again, she couldn't help smiling. Game on. Alexander Sterling. The Harper family brownstone in Brooklyn Heights looked like something out of a home decorating magazine if that magazine specialized in cheerful chaos meets Pinterest dreams. Alexander pulled his Tesla up to the curb, staring at the house with its bright blue door, window boxes overflowing with autumn flowers, and what appeared to be at least 15 different wind chimes creating a symphony on the front porch. You grew up here? He asked, turning off the engine. Don't sound so surprised, Olivia said, checking her lipstick in the passenger mirror. Shed changed from her work clothes into a burgundy sweater dress that made her auburn hair look like it was on fire. Not everyone lives in a Manhattan penthouse. I don't live in a penthouse. Tribeca Loft, Upper East Side brownstone, actually. My grandmother left it to me. Of course she did. Olivia grabbed the bottle of wine they'd stopped to buy. Okay, here are the rules. My dad is going to want to talk business with you. Don't let him corner you about his landscaping companies, financial projections. My mom is going to ask when we're having kids. Deflect. My sister Sophia is going to interrogate you like you're applying for the CIA, and my brother Ethan is going to challenge you to some kind of ridiculous competition." "What kind of competition?" "Last time my sister brought someone home, it was arm wrestling. Before that, video game soccer. Ethan doesn't like to lose." Alexander straightened his tie. "Anything else?" "Yeah. My family can smell fake from a mile away. If we're doing this, we need to actually look like we care about each other. How hard can it be?" The front door burst open before they'd even reached the porch steps, and a small hurricane in the form of Olivia's mother came barreling toward them. "Olivia! And you must be Alexander." Claire Harper was a petite woman who somehow managed to take up twice her actual space through sheer force of personality. She grabbed Alexander in a hug that probably crushed at least 3 ribs. "Oh, honey, you're even more handsome than Marlene said." "Thank you, Mrs. Harper. It's wonderful to meet you. Call me Claire. Mrs. Harper makes me sound old." She grabbed his arm, already dragging him toward the house. "Daniel! Daniel! They're here!" Olivia mouthed sorry at Alexander as they were swept into a living room that looked like it had been decorated by someone with a serious addiction to throw pillows and family photos. Every surface held at least 7 pictures of various Harper family members at different life stages. So this is the famous Alexander. A tall man with graying hair and Olivia's same green eyes stood up from a recliner, extending his hand. "Daniel Harper, I have to say, son, you've got excellent taste." "Dad," Olivia warned, her cheeks flushing pink. "What?" "I'm just saying your mother and I were beginning to think you were going to end up one of those career women with 12 cats. I'm allergic to cats, which is why we were so worried." A younger woman who looked like a blonde version of Olivia emerged from what smelled like the kitchen. "I'm Sophia," she said, shaking Alexander's hand with a grip that could probably crack walnuts. "So how exactly did you and my sister end up together? Because last month she called you and I, quote, a soulless corporate overlord with the personality of a tax audit." "Sophia!" Olivia looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. "What?" "I'm just curious about the transformation." Alexander glanced at Olivia, seeing the panic in her eyes. "Time for some damage control." "Well," he said, settling onto the couch and pulling Olivia down next to him, his arm automatically going around her shoulders. "Your sister has a very colorful vocabulary when she's passionate about something. I found it refreshing. Most people are afraid to tell me what they really think. Olivia never had that problem." He looked down at her, and for a moment the act almost felt real. "I knew she was special from the first time she told me I was wrong." "About what?" "This from Ethan, a younger version of Daniel who just appeared with what looked like motor oil on his hands. A marketing campaign for our sports drink line. She said my ideas were, quote, about as innovative as a ham sandwich." Claire gasped. "Olivia, you said that to your boss?" "In my defense," Olivia said weakly, "it really was a terrible campaign." "She was right," Alexander said, his thumb absently stroking her shoulder. "Her revision increased sales by 30%. The family exchanged looks, and Olivia could practically see their approval ratings climbing." "Well then," Claire clapped her hands together, "dinner's ready." "I made lasagna. Italian was your favorite, Alexander," Olivia said pointedly. As they moved to the dining room, Sophia fell into step beside Alexander. "Okay, I'm impressed, but I still have questions." "Such as what's Olivia's biggest fear?" Alexander almost panicked, then remembered the elevator conversation they'd had 3 weeks ago about quarterly reports, presenting to large groups. She gets nervous speaking in front of more than 10 people. Sophia's eyebrows shot up. "Lucky guess. Or do you actually pay attention?" "I pay attention." The dining room table was set for 6, with enough food to feed a small army. Alexander had grown up with quiet, formal dinners where conversation topics were carefully curated and everyone used the correct fork. This was chaos, everyone talking at once, dishes being passed in seemingly random directions, at least 3 different conversations happening simultaneously. "So, Alexander," Daniel said, loading his plate with enough lasagna to feed a linebacker, "Olivia tells me you run the whole company. What's that like?" "Challenging. Rewarding. Some days I feel like I am herding cats. I bet. I run my own landscaping business, nothing like your scale, of course. But I know how hard it is to keep employees motivated. Ethan looked up from his third helping of garlic bread. Olivia said you went to Harvard MBA. Yes, smart and good-looking. Claire beamed at Olivia. Honey, you hit the jackpot. Mom. Olivia's cheeks were permanently pink now. What? I'm just saying your grandmother would have loved him. Grandma Rose would have interrogated him for 3 hours and then decided whether he was worthy, Sophia said. She would have loved him, Claire insisted. Grandma always said the right man for Olivia would be someone who could keep up with her brain and her mouth. Her mouth gets her in trouble sometimes, Ethan said with a grin. Remember when she told off that guy at her college graduation? He was being rude to the catering staff, Olivia protested. She made him apologize in front of his entire family, Ethan told Alexander. It was epic. Alexander looked at Olivia with what felt suspiciously like real admiration. I would have paid to see that. You probably would have been on his side. Corporate solidarity and all. Actually, I would have helped. I can't stand people who treat service workers badly. The conversation flowed easier after that. Daniel told stories about the early days of his business. Claire shared embarrassing childhood stories about all 3 of her children, and Ethan challenged Alexander to a game of pool after dinner. I should warn you, Olivia murmured as they headed to the basement. Ethan was on his college billiards team. Good thing I spent 4 years hustling pool to pay for textbooks, Alexander murmured back. You did not. Scholarship kid, remember? I had to get creative with spending money. Ethan racked the balls with the confidence of someone who'd never lost a game in his life. 8 ball. Okay. What followed was possibly the most competitive pool game in Harper family history. Ethan was good, really good, but Alexander was better, and he played it smart, letting Ethan win the first game before systematically destroying him in games 2 and 3. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Ethan asked, clearly impressed despite himself. Boston College has a very competitive pool scene. Hess being modest, Olivia said, surprising them both. I bet he was legendary. Alexander looked at her, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest at the pride in her voice. By 10 o'clock they were saying their goodbyes on the front porch, laden down with enough leftover lasagna to feed them for a week. I like him, Claire whispered to Olivia, loud enough for everyone to hear. Hess, good for you. Thanks, Mom. And he looks at you like you're the most interesting person in the room. He does not. Yes, he does, Sophia confirmed. It's actually kind of cute. In the car driving back toward Manhattan, they sat in comfortable silence for the first few minutes. That went well, Alexander said finally. You were good with them. Almost like you actually enjoyed yourself. I did. Your family is. He paused, searching for the right word. Warm. You mean loud? He repeated firmly. Warm. They care about you. Really care. It's nice. What's your family like? Alexander's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Smaller. Quieter. My parents died in a car accident when I was 15. It's mostly just me and my grandmother now. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's okay. Happened a long time ago. But Olivia caught something in his voice, a carefully controlled sadness that made her chest ache. Is that why you don't like big groups? The loneliness? He glanced at her, surprised by her perceptiveness. Maybe. They were stopped at a red light in downtown Brooklyn when Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and groaned. What? Sophia texted our family group chat. She said, and I quote, I officially approve of Alexander, Hess keeper material. Also, he let Ethan win the first pool game on purpose, which means he's either really smart or really kind. Possibly both. Your sister is observant. Too observant. She added, she also says Mom is already looking at wedding venues. We've been engaged for exactly 8 hours. Welcome to the Harper Family Express. We don't do anything halfway. Alexander pulled up in front of Olivia's apartment building in the village. It was a converted warehouse with industrial windows and fire escapes that probably violated 6 different building codes. This is me, she said, gathering her purse and the leftover container. Olivia, she turned back. Yeah? Thank you for tonight. I know this is all fake, but I had a really good time. Something in his voice made her study his face. In the dim glow of the streetlights, he looked younger, somehow less like the intimidating CEO, and more like someone who might actually be lonely. Me too, she said softly. Good night, Alexander. Good night. She was halfway to the building's entrance when he called her name again. What's your favorite flower? What? Your favorite flower. If I'm going to be a convincing fiancé, I should probably know things like that. Olivia smiled. Peonies. Big, messy, dramatic peonies. Perfect. As she walked upstairs to her apartment, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight. The way Alexander had looked at her when she defended the catering worker. The way Head let Ethan win the first game. The way Head seemed to genuinely enjoy her family's chaos. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for tonight. Your family is wonderful. As she saved his number and texted back. How did you get my number? I'm your boss. I have access to all employee information. Also, HR gave it to me. That seems like a privacy violation. I'll add it to the list of things I need to apologize for, along with calling you Harper all the time. What do you prefer? Olivia stared at her phone. This felt dangerously close to an actual getting-to-know-you conversation. Olivia is fine. What should I call you? Alexander works. Unless we're around other people, then you should probably use terms of endearment. Like what? Whatever feels natural. Just maybe not soulless corporate overlord. Despite herself, Olivia laughed out loud. I'll work on it. Good night, Alexander. Good night, Olivia. She set her phone down and looked around her small apartment. Tomorrow Shed be the senior marketing director at one of the biggest companies in New York. Shed also be fake engaged to a man who was turning out to be far more complicated than Shed ever imagined. Her phone buzzed one more time. P.S. Your sister was right. I did let Ethan win the first game, but only because I wanted him to like me. Olivia smiled and typed back. Why did you want him to like you? The response came quickly. Because his opinion matters to you. As she got ready for bed, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about that last text. This fake engagement was supposed to be simple, professional, mutually beneficial. So why did her heart skip a beat every time Alexander looked at her like she was something more than just a convenient arrangement? And more importantly, what was she going to do about it? 3 weeks into their fake engagement, Olivia had learned several surprising things about Alexander Sterling. He took his coffee black but kept honey in his desk drawer for tea. He had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was frustrated, which happened approximately every 15 minutes during board meetings. He owned more books than most libraries, kept a small succulent named Gerald on his windowsill, and despite his reputation as a corporate shark, had personally funded college scholarships for 12 employees' children without anyone knowing. Shed also learned that he was an excellent actor, because no one at Sterling Enterprises suspected their relationship was anything but genuine. The quarterly projections look fantastic, Olivia's new assistant, Marcus, said as he placed a stack of reports on her desk. As senior marketing director, she now had her own office, nothing as grand as Alexander's corner suite, but it had a view of the Hudson and enough space to pace when she was thinking. The sports drink campaign is exceeding all targets. Thanks, Marcus. Any word from the design team about the new packaging mock-ups? They should be ready. Bye. He paused, grinning. Incoming at 3 o'clock. Olivia looked up to see Alexander approaching her office, carrying 2 coffee cups and what appeared to be a small potted plant. The entire marketing floor had gone subtly quiet the way it always did when the CEO made an appearance. But instead of the intimidating presence he usually projected, he looked almost nervous. Hey, he said, stepping into her office and closing the door behind him. Brought you coffee. And I saw this at the flower shop and thought you might like it. He handed her one of the cups and the plant a small pot of bright pink peonies, exactly like the ones Shed mentioned outside her apartment 3 weeks ago. You bought me flowers, she said, genuinely touched, despite knowing it was all for show. I bought you a plant. Flowers die. This way you can watch them bloom again. Something warm and dangerous fluttered in her chest. Alexander, we have an audience, she said quietly, nodding toward the glass wall where at least half the marketing team was pretending not to watch. Might as well give them something to talk about. Right. Performance. Shed almost forgotten. In that case, she stood up and walked around her desk, reaching up to straighten his tie. You should probably kiss me hello. She meant it as a challenge, a way to test how far he was willing to take their act. She did not expect him to actually do it, but Alexander's hand settled on her waist, and he leaned down, pressing his lips to hers in a kiss that was supposed to be for show but felt entirely too real. It was soft and warm and lasted exactly 3 seconds longer than necessary for their audience. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than usual, and Olivia had to resist the urge to touch her lips. Better? He asked, his voice slightly rougher than normal. Much, she managed, hoping she sounded more composed than she felt. Marcus cleared his throat. Should I come back later? No, we're good, Olivia said quickly, stepping back from Alexander. What did you need? As Marcus launched into details about the design timeline, Olivia tried to ignore the way Alexander's presence seemed to fill her entire office. Head positioned himself behind her chair, one hand resting casually on her shoulder, playing the part of the attentive fiancé perfectly, too perfectly. I'll let you get back to work, Alexander said after Marcus left. But don't forget, we have the charity gala tomorrow night. The Children's Hospital benefit. Black tie. Lots of networking. And unfortunately, my ex-girlfriend will probably be there. Olivia looked up sharply. Ex-girlfriend? Victoria Langford. We dated for 6 months last year. She's persistent. Persistent how? The kind of persistent that shows up at your office unannounced and leaves lingerie in your car. Wow. Okay. That's definitely persistent. Olivia tried to ignore the spike of something that felt suspiciously like jealousy. Is she going to be a problem? Not if. We're convincing. Which reminds me, we should probably coordinate our story. How long have we been together? 6 months, Olivia said automatically. Started as just working late together, turned into coffee dates. First kiss was in the supply closet during the Johnson account crisis. Alexander stared at her. You've really thought this through. I'm thorough. What's our song? Our song. Every couple has a song. Something we supposedly danced to or that was playing during some meaningful moment. I don't really do songs. Everyone does songs. What's the last song you heard that you actually liked? Alexander was quiet for a moment, looking genuinely stumped. I honestly can't remember the last time I listened to music for pleasure. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. I'm busy. You're missing out. Olivia pulled out her phone, scrolling through her playlist. Here, put these on. She handed him her earbuds. After a moment's hesitation, he put them in. She hit play on The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra. Classic. Romantic, the kind of song rich people dance to at fancy parties, she explained. And it's old enough that we could have heard it anywhere. Alexander listened for a few moments, something shifting in his expression. It's nice. Just nice? It's timeless, elegant. Like something you danced to at my grandmother's 80th birthday party. Actually, yes. She loves Sinatra. Perfect. So that's our story. We were at some corporate event. This song came on, you asked me to dance, and the rest is history. You're good at this. I have an excellent imagination. Alexander's phone buzzed and he glanced at it with a frown. I have to go. Board meeting in 10 minutes. But Olivia. Yeah? Wear something that makes Victoria Langford cry with envy tomorrow night. After he left, Olivia sat back in her chair staring at the peonies. Head brought her. Her assistant Lauren appeared in her doorway within 30 seconds. Okay. Spill, Lauren said, closing the door behind her. That was the hottest thing I've ever seen in a corporate setting. And I once watched 2 VPs have a very passionate argument about quarterly budgets. We are engaged, Lauren. Engaged couples kiss. Engaged couples don't usually look like they're about to tear each other's clothes off in the middle of a marketing meeting. We did not look like honey. The sexual tension in here was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. And don't even get me started on the way he looks at you when you're not paying attention. How does he look at me? Like you're the answer to a question he didn't know he was asking. That evening, Olivia found herself standing in front of her closet in a state of complete panic. She owned exactly 3 formal dresses, one black cocktail dress that was at least 5 years old, one navy blue number that made her look like she was attending a funeral, and one red dress Shed bought on sale and never had the courage to wear. The red dress was beautiful, a deep crimson silk that hugged her curves in all the right places and had a neckline that was sophisticated without being scandalous. Shed bought it 2 years ago for her college roommate's wedding, then chickened out and worn the safe black dress instead. But this wasn't about being safe. This was about making Victoria Langford cry with envy. Her phone rang as she was debating between the red dress and playing it safe. "Please tell me you're not planning to wear that black dress." Sophia's voice came through the speaker. "How did you? Because I know you, and you always play it safe. But this is different. This is your chance to walk into a room full of New York's elite on the arm of the city's most eligible bachelor and show them exactly why he chose you. This is fake, Sophia. The engagement might be fake, but the way he looked at you at dinner was real. Trust me, I know the difference." "You think?" "I know. So wear the red dress, the one you bought for Sarah's wedding and then chickened out of. How do you remember that? Because I'm your sister and I remember everything. Now go get gorgeous and show Manhattan what Olivia Harper is made of." 2 hours later, Olivia stood in front of her full-length mirror, barely recognizing herself. The red dress fit like it had been made for her. Her hair was twisted up in an elegant chignon with a few loose curls framing her face. And Shed actually managed to apply makeup that looked professional rather than like she'd been attacked by a cosmetics counter. Her doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. "Punctual," she murmured, grabbing her clutch and wrapping herself in her one good coat, a black wool peacoat that didn't exactly scream charity gala, but was better than her puffy winter jacket. She opened the door to find Alexander in a perfectly tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His hair was styled back, his bow tie perfectly straight, and he looked like Head stepped off the pages of GQ. "Wow," he said, his eyes widening as he took in her appearance. "You look stunning." The word came out rougher than Head probably intended, and Olivia felt that dangerous flutter in her chest again. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. Shall we?" He offered her his arm, and they walked toward the elevator together. "So, tell me about this gala," Olivia said as they rode down to the lobby. "What am I walking into? 200 of Manhattan's wealthiest individuals paying $5,000 a plate to eat mediocre chicken and congratulate themselves on their philanthropy. Cynical much? Realistic. Though the cause is good. The Children's Hospital does incredible work, and the money raised tonight will fund a new pediatric wing. That's actually really wonderful. It is, which is why I go every year, even though I'd rather have root canal surgery." A sleek black car was waiting for them outside her building. Alexander held the door for her, and she slid across the leather seats, trying not to think about how this felt suspiciously like a real date. "Nervous?" he asked as they drove through Manhattan. "Should I be? These events can be intense. Lots of networking, lots of politics, and everyone will want to meet my mysterious fiancé. Any other ex-girlfriends I should know about? Victoria is the only one likely to cause trouble. Shez." He paused, searching for the right words. "Persistent. Dramatic. She has a tendency to make scenes. Great. Anything else I should know? My grandmother will be there." Olivia turned to stare at him. "Your grandmother? The one whose birthday party is non-negotiable?" "Eleanor Sterling. She's 80 years old, about 5 feet tall, and more terrifying than any CEO I've ever met. She has opinions about everything, and she's not shy about sharing them. Does she know about our arrangement? Absolutely not. She'd see right through us, and then she'd probably disown me for lying to her. So we need to convince your terrifying grandmother that we're madly in love." In summary, yes. No pressure at all. The gala was being held at the Plaza Hotel, and as their car pulled up to the red carpet entrance, Olivia felt her stomach drop. Photographers lined the walkway, flashbulbs going off like fireworks, and elegantly dressed couples posed and smiled for the cameras. "We don't have to do photos," Alexander said, noticing her expression. "Actually, we do. If we're selling this, we need to sell it completely." She squeezed his hand. "Just follow my lead." The moment they stepped out of the car, the photographers went crazy. "Alexander, Over here! Who's your date? This way, please! Alexander's arm settled around her waist, pulling her close as they walked down the red carpet. He leaned down to whisper in her ear, "You're doing great. Just smile, and don't let go of me." His breath was warm against her skin, and for a moment Olivia forgot they were acting. "Is that her? Is that his fiancée?" she heard someone in the crowd ask. "She's gorgeous," someone else replied. They posed for a few photos, Alexander's hand never leaving her waist before making their way inside. The Plaza's grand ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland with white flowers, twinkling lights, and ice sculptures that probably cost more than Olivia's annual salary. "Champagne." A waiter appeared at Alexander's elbow immediately. "Please." Alexander took 2 glasses, handing one to Olivia. "To surviving the next 4 hours." "To not making fools of ourselves," Olivia countered, clinking her glass against his. "Alexander, darling." They both turned to see a tall, elegant woman with silver hair approaching them. She was wearing a stunning navy blue gown that probably cost more than Olivia's car, and she carried herself with the kind of confidence that came from knowing you were the most important person in any room. "Grandmother." Alexander leaned down to kiss her cheek. "You look beautiful. Flattery will get you everywhere." Eleanor Sterling turned her sharp blue eyes to Olivia, and Olivia felt like she was being X-rayed. "And this must be the young woman who's managed to capture my grandson's attention. Grandmother, this is Olivia Harper." "Olivia, my grandmother, Eleanor Sterling, Mrs. Sterling." "It's such an honor to meet you," Olivia said, extending her hand. "The pleasure is mine, dear. I've heard so much about you." "You have?" "Oh, yes. Alexander hasn't stopped talking about you since the engagement announcement. It's quite refreshing, actually. I was beginning to think he was incapable of thinking about anything other than quarterly reports." Olivia glanced at Alexander, who looked slightly uncomfortable. "Well, he's full of surprises." "Indeed he is. Tell me, dear, what do you think of our Alexander?" This was it, the test. Olivia could feel Alexander tense beside her. "Honestly," she said, the words coming easier than they should have, "I think he's one of the most remarkable men I've ever met. He's brilliant, obviously, but he's also kind in ways that people don't always see. He notices when someone is struggling and finds ways to help without making it about him. He makes me laugh. He challenges me to be better. And she looked up at Alexander, surprised to find herself meaning every word. "He makes me feel like incapable of anything." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "And what does he see in you?" "I have no idea," Olivia said honestly, "but am grateful for it every day." "Wise answer." Eleanor patted Olivia's arm approvingly. "I like her, Alexander. Don't mess it up." As his grandmother moved away to terrorize other guests, Alexander stared at Olivia with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. You were just perfect. She loved you." "I meant what I said." "I know." He smiled softly. "That's what made it perfect." Before Olivia could analyze what that meant, a new voice interrupted them. "Alexander, darling, there you are." They turned to see a statuesque blonde in a dress that left very little to the imagination approaching them. She was beautiful in the way that required a team of professionals and a significant monthly beauty budget, and she moved with the kind of predatory grace that made Olivia's skin crawl. Victoria Langford had arrived. "Victoria," Alexander said coolly, "I didn't know you were attending tonight." "Oh, you know me. I never miss a good party." Her eyes flicked to Olivia dismissively before returning to Alexander. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?" "Fiancé," Alexander corrected, his arm tightening around Olivia's waist. "Victoria Langford. Meet Olivia Harper, fiancé." Victoria's laugh was like broken glass. "How wonderful, and so sudden. I mean, it seems like just yesterday you were telling me you weren't the marrying type." "People change," Alexander said evenly. "Apparently." Victoria's smile was sharp enough to cut diamonds. "Tell me, Olivia, how did you two meet?" "I'm assuming it was through work." "Actually, we met when I told him his marketing campaign was terrible," Olivia said sweetly. "It was hate at first sight." Victoria's smile faltered slightly. "How romantic," she drawled. "There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who isn't afraid to challenge you," Alexander said, looking down at Olivia with what looked suspiciously like real affection. "Most people just tell me what they think I want to hear." "Integrity is so rare these days," Olivia agreed, meeting Victoria's gaze directly. "Don't you think?" The conversation continued for another few painful minutes, with Victoria making increasingly transparent attempts to undermine Olivia and remind Alexander of their shared history. But something had shifted in Alexander's demeanor. Where had been polite but distant before, he was now actively protective, shutting down Victoria's attempts at manipulation with a coolness that was almost frightening. Finally, Victoria excused herself, but not before promising to catch up properly later. "Well, she's delightful," Olivia said once they were alone. "I'm sorry about that. She's exactly what I expected, beautiful, manipulative, and completely wrong for me." Alexander looked at her sharply. "Wrong for me? You're not the kind of man who needs someone to stroke your ego and tell you what you want to hear. You need someone who challenges you, who makes you think, who isn't impressed by your money or your power. Is that what you think I need?" "I think," Olivia said carefully, "that you need someone who sees past all of this." She gestured to the opulent ballroom around them and still chooses to be here. The music changed, and Olivia recognized the opening notes of "The Way You Look Tonight." "Our song," Alexander said softly. "Want to dance?" He led her onto the dance floor, his hands settling at the small of her back as they began to move together. He was a good dancer, confident and smooth, and Olivia found herself relaxing into his lead. "You were incredible with my grandmother," he said as they swayed together. "And with Victoria." "I was protecting what's mine," she said, then immediately flushed. "I mean for the sake of our arrangement, right? Our arrangement." But the way he was looking at her didn't feel like an arrangement. It felt like something much more dangerous. "Olivia." "Yeah? When this is over, the fake engagement, I mean, what happens to us?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean? I mean, do we go back to being boss and employee? Do we pretend none of this ever happened?" I don't know. What do you want to happen?" Before he could answer, the song ended and the spell was broken by applause and the announcement that dinner was about to be served. As they made their way to their table, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just crossed some invisible line. The fake engagement had started as a mutually beneficial arrangement, but somewhere between meeting her family and dancing in his arms, it had become something else entirely, something real, something terrifying. And judging by the way Alexander kept glancing at her throughout dinner, she wasn't the only one who felt it. The question was, what were they going to do about it? By the time they left the gala at midnight, Olivia's feet were killing her, her face hurt from smiling, and her head was spinning from champagne and the realization that she might be falling for her fake fiancé. "Thank you," Alexander said as they rode back to her apartment. "For tonight, for everything. Thank you for letting me borrow your life for a few hours." "You didn't borrow it. You improved it." They were quiet for the rest of the ride, but it was a charged silence full of unspoken questions and possibilities. When they reached her building, Alexander walked her to her door like a proper gentleman. "Good night, Olivia," he said softly. "Good night, Alexander." He started to turn away, then stopped. "Olivia? Yeah? That thing you said to my grandmother about me making you feel capable of anything. You do the same for me." Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her standing in her doorway with her heart pounding and the taste of possibility on her lips. Inside her apartment, Olivia kicked off her heels and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her lipstick was gone, her hair slightly mussed, and her cheeks flushed. She looked like a woman who'd been thoroughly kissed. The problem was she hadn't been. Not really. But as she got ready for bed, all she could think about was the way Alexander had looked at her during their dance, the way his hands had felt on her waist, the way Head protected her from Victoria's attacks. This fake engagement was supposed to solve her problems. Instead, it was creating entirely new ones. Because somewhere between the family dinner and the charity gala, between the peonies and the dance floor, Olivia Harper had made a terrible mistake. She had fallen in love with Alexander Sterling and she had absolutely no idea what to do about it. The morning after the gala, Olivia woke up to 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and a tabloid headline that made her choke on her coffee. Billionaire Backler Sterling engaged to mystery woman inside their whirlwind romance. The photo accompanying the article was from the red carpet. Alexander's arm around her waist, both of them laughing at something, head whispered in her ear. They looked completely natural together, like they'd been a couple for years instead of fake engaged for 3 weeks. Her phone rang again. "Sophia, have you seen the news?" her sister demanded without preamble. "I'm looking at it now," Olivia said, scrolling through what appeared to be dozens of articles about their engagement. "This is insane. Page 6 called you refreshingly normal and exactly what Sterling needs." The Times financial section speculated about whether your engagement would affect company stock prices. And don't even get me started on the fashion blogs. Apparently your dress last night was a triumph of understated elegance. It was a $50 clearance dress from Nordstrom Rack. Well, it looked like $1 million. More importantly, how was the evening? Mom wants all the details. And I quote, "especially whether he's good with his hands on the dance floor." Please tell me, she did not actually say that. She did. So spill. Olivia curled up on her couch, still in her pajamas, trying to process the events of the previous night. It was complicated. Complicated how? Complicated like I might be in serious trouble? There was a pause. "Oh, honey. You didn't." "I think I did." "You fell for him, your fake fiancé?" "I don't know. Maybe. The whole thing was supposed to be professional. But then he brought me peonies, and he was so good with the family, and last night when we danced." She trailed off, remembering the way Head looked at her, the things Head said. "What happened when you danced?" "Nothing. Everything." "I don't know, Sophia. He asked what would happen to us when this is over, and I didn't know what to say." "What did you want to say?" "That I don't want it to be over." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "Olivia, what if he feels the same way? Then we're both idiots who got ourselves into an impossible situation. Or you're two people who found each other in the most unexpected way possible." Before Olivia could respond, someone knocked on her door. She peered through the peephole and nearly dropped her phone. Alexander was standing in her hallway holding 2 coffee cups and a bag from her favorite bakery. He was wearing jeans and a navy sweater instead of his usual suit, and his hair was slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. "Sophia, I have to go." "Why?" "Because my fake fiancé is at my door looking like a magazine ad for weekend casual wear." "Oh, this is getting good. Call me later." Olivia hung up and opened the door, suddenly self-conscious about her pajama pants and oversized college sweatshirt. "Morning," Alexander said, his eyes taking in her appearance with something that looked like fondness. "Thought you might need caffeine after last night." "You thought? Right. Come in." He stepped into her small apartment, and she was struck again by how much space he seemed to occupy. Everything felt smaller with him, there more intimate. "Nice place," he said, looking around at her mismatched furniture and the books stacked on every available surface. "It's not much, but it's home. I like it. It feels lived in. Comfortable." He handed her one of the coffee cups and the bakery bag. "Maple scones. Marcus mentioned they were your favorite. You asked my assistant about my favorite pastries. I wanted to do something nice for you after last night." They settled on her couch, and for a moment it felt startlingly domestic, like they were a real couple having a lazy Saturday morning. "So," Alexander said, pulling out his phone. "We are famous. I saw. This is crazy, Alexander. People are dissecting our relationship like it's a merger deal. Welcome to my world. Every woman I've been photographed with for the past 5 years has been subjected to this kind of scrutiny. How do you stand it? Usually I don't care what they write, but this time." He scrolled through one of the articles, frowning. "This time they're writing about you. And some of these comments are mean. Vicious. They're questioning whether you're good enough, whether you're with me for the money, whether you'll be able to handle the pressure of being in the public eye." Olivia took his phone and read a few of the comments. Her stomach sank with each one. She's pretty enough, I guess, but she's not exactly supermodel material. Gold digger alert. This girl comes from nowhere, and suddenly she's engaged to a billionaire. She looks so ordinary. What does he see in her? Give it 6 months. She'll never fit into his world. Wow, she said quietly, handing the phone back. People are awful. Hey. Alexander's voice was gentle. Don't listen to them. They don't know you, but they're not wrong, are they? I am ordinary. I don't fit in your world. Last night was like playing dress up. I was pretending to be someone I'm not. That's not true, Alexander. I bought my dress on clearance. My apartment could probably fit in your walk-in closet. I don't know which fork to use for the salad course, and I've never been to Europe. How is this supposed to work? Alexander set down his coffee and turned to face her fully. Do you want to know what I saw last night? What? I saw a woman who charmed my grandmother. Nobody charms my grandmother, by the way. I saw someone who handled Victoria's cattiness with grace and wit. I saw you make a room full of Manhattan's elite laugh at your stories about growing up in Brooklyn. You weren't pretending to be someone else, Olivia. You were being exactly who you are, and it was perfect. The internet commenters don't seem to agree. The internet commenters are jealous strangers who have nothing better to do than tear down successful women. Their opinions don't matter. But what if they're right? Alexander was quiet for a long moment. Are you having second thoughts about our arrangement? No, she said quickly, then paused. Maybe. I don't know. This is all happening so fast, and it feels so real. She looked up at him, surprised by the understanding in his voice. Yeah, I know. It's been feeling real to me too. The admission hung between them, loaded with implications neither of them seemed ready to address directly. What are we doing, Alexander? I honestly don't know anymore. Before either of them could say anything else, both of their phones started ringing simultaneously. Marcus, Olivia said, looking at her screen. My assistant David, Alexander said, checking his own phone. We should probably take these. They answered their respective calls, and within 30 seconds both were on their feet. What do you mean emergency board meeting? Alexander was saying into his phone. It's Saturday morning. Slow down, Marcus, Olivia said into hers. What kind of crisis? They hung up and looked at each other with matching expressions of dread. Emergency board meeting in an hour, Alexander said. Apparently, our engagement is causing some kind of corporate drama. Marcus says there are protesters outside the building. Something about nepotism and unfair hiring practices. What? Someone leaked that I got promoted right after our engagement was announced. They're claiming it's because we're sleeping together, not because I'm qualified. Alexander's face went dark. That's ridiculous. You earned that promotion, did I? Because the timing looks pretty suspicious. Olivia, you've been doing that job for months without the title or the pay. The promotion was overdue. Tell that to the board of directors. An hour later they were sitting in the Sterling Enterprises boardroom, facing 12 very stern-looking board members and what felt like a corporate inquisition. The situation is quite simple, said Margaret Worthington, the board's longest-serving member and a woman who looked like she'd been carved from granite. The company's stock price has been volatile since news of your engagement broke. Some investors are concerned about potential conflicts of interest. There are no conflicts of interest, Alexander said calmly. Miss Harper's promotion was based entirely on her qualifications and performance. The timing is unfortunate, said another board member, James Crawford. It gives the appearance of impropriety. What exactly are you suggesting? Olivia asked, her voice steadier than she felt. We're not suggesting anything, Margaret said. We're stating facts. Your promotion coming so quickly after the announcement of your engagement looks like favoritism. The protesters outside our building are claiming that Sterling Enterprises promotes based on personal relationships rather than merit. That's absurd, Alexander said. Olivia has been carrying the marketing department for 2 years. Her campaigns have increased revenue by 30%. Her promotion was discussed long before our engagement. Can you prove that? James asked. Are there records of these discussions? Alexander hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough for Olivia to realize the truth. There were no records, because there had been no discussions. Her promotion had been part of their fake engagement deal. I think, Olivia said quietly, I should resign. What? Alexander turned to stare at her. Not from the company, from the position. If my promotion is causing problems for Sterling Enterprises, then I should step down. Absolutely not, Alexander. This isn't about what I deserve or what I've earned. This is about protecting the company. I won't let you sacrifice your career because people are making unfounded accusations, and I won't let you destroy your company's reputation because of our arrangement. The word arrangement seemed to hit Alexander like a physical blow. Something shuddered in his expression. Perhaps, Margaret said, it would be best if Miss Harper took a leave of absence while we sort this out. No. Alexander's voice was ice cold. That would be admitting guilt where none exists. Olivia keeps her position, or I start looking for a new board of directors. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Finally, James cleared his throat. Well, table this discussion for now. But Alexander, you need to understand that your personal life affects this company. Perhaps in the future you should consider the implications of your romantic choices. As they filed out of the boardroom, Olivia felt like she'd been hit by a truck. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, that their fake relationship would complicate everything. My office, Alexander said tersely. Now, they rode the elevator in silence, the air between them crackling with tension. Once they were behind closed doors, Alexander turned to face her. Don't ever do that again. Do what? Offer to resign. Sacrifice your career to make things easier for everyone else. I was trying to help by throwing yourself under the bus, by being realistic. This whole thing is spiraling out of control, Alexander. Maybe we should just end it now before it gets worse. Is that what you want? I want to stop feeling like constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. And what shoe is that? The one where you realize this was all a mistake, where you wake up and remember that just your employee, not really your fiancé, and definitely not someone who belongs in your world. Alexander stared at her for a long moment. Is that really what you think? I think this has gotten way too complicated. We have protesters outside because people think I slept my way to a promotion. Your board thinks I'm a gold digger who's compromising your judgment. And every time I look at you, I forget that this is all supposed to be fake. The last sentence came out louder than she'd intended, and the silence that followed was deafening. So do I, Alexander said quietly. What? Forget it's fake. Every time I look at you, every time we're together, I forget this is supposed to be an arrangement. I forget that you're only here because you needed your family off your back, and I needed the same thing. They stared at each other across his office, the truth finally out in the open. What are we doing? Olivia whispered. I don't know. But I know I don't want to stop. Alexander, I know it's complicated. I know it could ruin everything. But I can't pretend anymore that what I feel for you is fake. What do you feel for me? He moved closer, his hand reaching up to cup her face. Like you're the first person in years who sees me as more than just my net worth or my last name. Like you're the first woman who challenges me to be better instead of just telling me imperfect. Like you're the first person who makes me want to come home at the end of the day. That's not, we can't what? Can't admit that this is real? Can't acknowledge that somewhere between your family dinner and last night's gala, we stopped acting? If we do this, if we make this real, everything changes. Maybe everything needs to change. What about the company, the board, the protesters outside? Let me worry about all of that. The question is, what do you want, Olivia? Not what's practical or professional or safe. What do you want? She looked up at him, at this man who had somehow become so much more than her demanding boss, and realized she was tired of being afraid. You, she whispered. I want you. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the careful performance they'd put on for their audience downstairs. This was desperate and hungry and completely real. His hands tangled in her hair, her arms wound around his neck, and for a few perfect moments nothing else existed. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. So what now? She asked. Now we stop pretending. We figure out how to make this work for real. And if we can't, then at least well know we tried. Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Mom wants to know if you're bringing Alexander to Sunday dinner tomorrow. She's making her famous pot roast. Your family wants to know if I'm coming to dinner tomorrow, Olivia said, showing him the message. Do you want me to as my fake fiancé or my real, whatever you are now? As the man who's falling in love with you. The words hit her like a lightning bolt. Alexander, I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I've never felt this way about anyone, and I don't want to waste time pretending otherwise. Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. No more contracts or clauses or exit strategies. I'm sure. Are you? Olivia thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea, the media scrutiny, the corporate complications, the fact that they came from completely different worlds. Then she thought about the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel, the way he defended her to his board of directors. Yes, she said. I'm sure. Good. Because I have an idea about how to handle our board problem. What kind of idea? The kind that involves telling them the truth, that you're the most qualified person for the job regardless of our relationship, that your work speaks for itself, and that if they can't see that, then maybe they don't deserve to be on this board. You'd risk your position for me? I'd risk everything for you. The next morning, Alexander called another emergency board meeting. This time he came prepared with 2 years' worth of Olivia's work, performance reviews, and documentation of every campaign Shed spearheaded. These are the facts, he said, laying out spreadsheets and reports across the conference table. Olivia Harper has consistently exceeded every performance metric. Her campaigns have generated more revenue than any other marketing director in the company's history. Her promotion was earned, not given. But the timing, Margaret began. The timing was coincidental. The promotion was overdue. And frankly, if this board is more concerned with appearances than results, then perhaps we need to reconsider our priorities. James leaned back in his chair. Are you threatening us, Alexander? I'm stating facts. Olivia Harper is an asset to this company. She's also going to be my wife. If the board has a problem with either of those things, then we can discuss my resignation. The room went dead silent. Finally, Margaret spoke. You really willing to risk everything for her? She's not a risk. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me personally and professionally. The vote was close, 7-5, but Olivia kept her position. As they left the building together that evening, Olivia slipped her hand into Alexander's. So, she said, what happens now? Now we go to Sunday dinner with your family. Now we plan a real engagement party. Now we figure out how to make this crazy, impossible thing work. And the fake engagement contract? We tear it up. We don't need it anymore. That night they sat on Olivia's couch and ripped up their original agreement piece by piece. Then Alexander pulled out a small velvet box. I know this is backwards, he said, but I was hoping you might consider making this official. Inside the box was a ring that took Olivia's breath away, a vintage Art Deco design with a center diamond surrounded by smaller stones, elegant and timeless. It was my grandmother's, Alexander said. She gave it to me after the gala, said she could tell you were the one. How could she tell? She said, you looked at her like she was the answer to a prayer you'd been too afraid to say out loud. She was right, Olivia whispered. As Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia realized that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a desperate lie told in a moment of panic could become the most beautiful truth. I love you, she said, the words feeling both brand new and like something she'd been waiting her whole life to say. I love you too, he replied, pulling her into his arms. Forever this time. No contracts, no exit clauses. Just us. Just us. Outside, the city sparkled with possibilities, and inside, two people who had started as strangers, become fake fiancés, and ended up as something infinitely more precious planned their real future together. The fake engagement had lasted 6 weeks. The real one would last a lifetime. 6 months later, the Hamptons estate looked like something out of a fairy tale. White roses and peonies, thousands of them cascaded from every surface, creating an enchanted garden that seemed to glow in the late afternoon sunshine. A string quartet played softly in the background while guests in their finest attire mingled on the manicured lawn, champagne glasses catching the golden light. Olivia Harper, soon to be Olivia Sterling, stood at the window of the bridal suite, trying to calm her nerves. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of vintage lace and silk, with delicate beading that caught the light with every breath. It had belonged to Eleanor Sterling, Alexander's grandmother, who had insisted Olivia wear it. Something borrowed, something blue, and something that comes with 60 years of happy marriage, Eleanor had said, when she presented the carefully preserved gown 3 months earlier. "You look absolutely radiant, darling," said Victoria Chen, Olivia's wedding planner and the miracle worker who had pulled together what was being called the wedding of the decade in just 6 months. "Though I have to say, you've been glowing for weeks now. Marriage suits you already." "We're not married yet," Olivia said, touching the pearl necklace at her throat, her something new, a gift from Alexander that morning, along with a note that simply said, "For my partner in everything. Always. Honey, you two have been married in every way that matters since that board meeting," Sophia said, appearing beside her in her maid of honor dress, a stunning blush pink that complemented her blonde hair perfectly. "The ceremony is just making it official." The past 6 months had been a whirlwind that somehow felt both incredibly fast and perfectly natural. After their real engagement, everything had shifted into a new gear. The media attention had been intense at first, but they'd handled it together, presenting a united front that eventually won over even the harshest critics. Alexander had been featured on the cover of Forbes as the CEO who found his heart, while Olivia had been profiled in Working Woman magazine as the marketing maven who's revolutionizing corporate America. More importantly, they'd navigated the complexities of merging their very different worlds with surprising grace. Alexander had become a regular fixture at Harper family Sunday dinners, where Head developed an unexpected friendship with Olivia's father over discussions of sustainable business practices and a shared love of terrible action movies. Meanwhile, Olivia had charmed Manhattan's social elite with her authenticity and quick wit, earning respect in circles that had initially dismissed her as an outsider. The Sterling Enterprises board had eventually come around too, especially after Olivia's marketing campaigns generated record-breaking profits and attracted 3 major new clients. Her promotion was no longer questioned. It was celebrated as one of Alexander's smartest business decisions. "5 minutes, ladies," called David, Alexander's assistant, as he knocked on the door. "The groom is getting antsy." Olivia's stomach fluttered with butterflies that had nothing to do with nerves and everything to do with excitement. In 5 minutes, she would walk down the aisle to marry the man who had started as her fake fiancé and become the love of her life. "Wait," she said suddenly, turning to Sophia. "Where's my something old?" Sophia smiled and handed her a small wrapped package from Mom and Dad. Inside was her grandmother Rose's wedding ring, a simple gold band that had been worn for 57 years of marriage. Attached was a note in her mother's handwriting. "Grandma Rose always said the right man would see your heart before your face, your dreams before your fears, and your future before your past. Alexander sees all of this and more. She would have loved him." Olivia slipped the ring onto her right hand next to the engagement ring that had caused such a stir 6 months ago. The vintage diamond caught the light, and she could swear she felt her grandmother's blessing. "Okay," she said, taking a deep breath. "I'm ready." The processional music began, and Olivia's heart started racing, but it was the good kind of racing, the kind that came from anticipation rather than anxiety. Through the window she could see the guests rising to their feet, her extended family from Brooklyn mixed with Manhattan's elite, Alexander's business associates chatting easily with her college friends, children from both families, serving as flower girls and ring bearers. It was exactly what they'd both wanted, a wedding that reflected both of their worlds, bringing together everyone they loved in one beautiful celebration. Sophia gave her a final hug. "Go get your happily ever after." The walk to the garden felt both endless and instantaneous. Olivia's parents were waiting for her at the entrance to the aisle. Both of them would walk her down because, as her father had said, "It took both of us to raise this incredible woman, so it'll take both of us to give her away." "You look beautiful, Mija," her mother whispered, adjusting Olivia's veil one last time. "Just like your grandmother on her wedding day," her father added, offering his arm. The music swelled, and they began the walk down the petal-strewn aisle. Olivia was vaguely aware of the guests turning to watch, of the photographer capturing every moment, of the videographer documenting what would surely become a cherished family heirloom. But all of that faded into background noise when she saw Alexander waiting for her at the altar. He was wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal gray tuxedo with a white rose boutonniere, and his usually perfectly styled hair was slightly mussed, like Head been running his hands through it, which he probably had because Shed learned he did that when he was nervous or excited. His steel gray eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that made her feel like they were the only two people in the world. Next to him stood his best man, his business partner and longtime friend Marcus Reed, along with groomsmen that included Ethan, who had become one of Alexander's closest friends after bonding over their shared competitive nature, and several of his Harvard classmates. But Olivia only had eyes for Alexander. As she got closer, she could see that his eyes were bright with unshed tears, and she felt her own emotions threatening to overwhelm her. This was really happening. After all the fake dates and pretend kisses and carefully orchestrated public appearances, they were about to promise forever to each other for real. When they reached the altar, her parents each kissed her cheek before placing her hand in Alexander's. The touch was electric, just like it had been that very first day when Head played along with her desperate lie. "Hi," he whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. "Hi, yourself," she whispered back, unable to stop smiling. The officiant, a family friend who had known Eleanor Sterling for decades, began the ceremony with words about love and partnership, about the journey that had brought them to this moment. But Olivia was barely listening, too caught up in looking at Alexander, in memorizing every detail of this perfect moment. "The couple has chosen to write their own vows," the officiant announced. "Alexander, would you like to begin?" Alexander nodded and pulled out a folded piece of paper, though Olivia noticed his hands were steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Olivia," he began, his voice carrying clearly across the garden. "6 months ago you pointed at me in a moment of panic and changed both of our lives forever. You were trying to solve a problem, but what you actually did was answer a question I didn't even know I was asking." He paused, glancing at the paper before looking back at her. "I thought I had everything figured out. I thought success meant building walls high enough to protect myself from getting hurt, working hard enough to prove I was worthy of my family name, and keeping everyone at arm's length so they couldn't disappoint me." Several guests made soft sounds of recognition. This was the Alexander they all knew or thought they knew. "Then you came along and told me my marketing campaign was terrible." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "You challenged everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I wanted, about what really mattered. You didn't care about my money or my title or my perfectly controlled life. You cared about whether I was kind to waiters, whether I listened when you talked, whether I could keep up with your brilliant mind and your generous heart." Olivia felt tears starting to slip down her cheeks, and she didn't care if they ruined her makeup. "You taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone perfect for you. Someone who makes you want to be better, braver, more honest. Someone who sees all your flaws and chooses to love you anyway. Someone who makes you feel like home." He folded the paper and reached for her hands. "So today I promise to love you not just for who you are, but for who you helped me become. I promise to listen to your ideas, even when they involve telling me I'm wrong. I promise to support your dreams, celebrate your victories, and remind you how amazing you are whenever you forget. I promise to be your partner in everything, in business, in adventure, in the quiet moments and the chaotic ones." His voice grew stronger, more confident. "I promise to protect what we've built together, to never take it for granted, and to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. You were my fake fiancé for exactly 6 weeks, but you'll be my real wife forever." By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Olivia was openly crying, and she could see Eleanor Sterling dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief in the front row. "Olivia," the officiant said gently, "your vows." She took a shaky breath and pulled out her own piece of paper, though like Alexander, she found herself looking at him instead of reading from it. "Alexander," she began, "when I pointed at you that day, I was trying to save myself from an awkward conversation with my aunt about my non-existent love life. I had no idea I was actually pointing toward my future." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I've spent my whole life being practical, making safe choices, following sensible plans, never taking risks that might lead to heartbreak. I thought love was supposed to be comfortable and predictable and easy to understand. I thought the right person would fit neatly into my existing life without changing anything. Alexander smiled, understanding exactly what she meant. You were none of those things. You were demanding and complicated and completely overwhelming. You made me question everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought I was capable of. You pushed me to dream bigger, work harder, and believe in myself in ways I never had before. She looked out at their guests, her family beaming with pride, his grandmother nodding approvingly, friends from both their worlds watching with rapt attention. But more than that, you saw me, not the version of me I thought I was supposed to be, but the real me. The me that argues with CEOs and cries at commercial movies and burns dinner more often than not. The me that dreams too big and worries too much and loves too hard. You saw all of that and decided it was worth fighting for. Her voice grew stronger, more certain. So today, I promise to keep being that person, the one who challenges you and supports you and refuses to let you hide behind your work when you're scared. I promise to be your partner in building something bigger than either of us could create alone. I promise to love you when you're confident and when you're vulnerable, when you're successful and when you're struggling, when you're perfectly put together and when you're completely falling apart. She folded her paper and looked directly into his eyes. I promise to choose adventure over safety, love over fear, us over everything else. I promise to be your real wife, your true partner, your forever person. And I promise that no matter how crazy our life gets, no matter what challenges we face, we'll face them together. She paused, then smiled through her tears. You were my fake fiancé by accident. But you're my real husband by choice today, tomorrow, and always. The officiant had to wait a moment for the emotional reactions from the guests to subside before continuing with the ring exchange. Marcus stepped forward with Olivia's ring, a wedding band designed to complement her engagement ring perfectly, while Sophia produced Alexander's ring, a classic platinum band engraved with the coordinates of the spot where they'd shared their first real kiss. With this ring, Alexander said, slipping the band onto Olivia's finger, I thee wed. With this ring, Olivia repeated, her hands trembling slightly as she placed his ring on his finger, I thee wed. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, the officiant said, beaming at them both. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Alexander, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was soft and sweet and perfect, nothing like the desperate passion of their first real kiss in his office, but exactly right for this moment. It was a promise, a celebration, a beginning. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause as they turned to face their guests as husband and wife. Rose petals fell like snow as the string quartet launched into Pachelbel's canon, and Olivia felt like her heart might burst from sheer happiness. As they walked back down the aisle together, Olivia caught glimpses of their loved ones celebrating, her parents crying happy tears, Alexander's grandmother blowing them kisses, Ethan and Marcus high-fiving, Lauren and her other co-workers cheering loudly. But mostly she was aware of Alexander's, hand in hers, solid and warm and real. They'd started as strangers thrown together by a desperate lie, become fake fiancés out of mutual necessity, and somehow ended up here married, truly and completely in love, ready to build a real life together. The cocktail hour was a blur of congratulations, photos, and happy chaos. Olivia's cheeks hurt from smiling, but she couldn't seem to stop. Every few minutes, Alexander would appear at her side, stealing a quick kiss or whispering something that made her laugh before being pulled away by another well-wisher. Mrs. Sterling, he said during one such moment, the name rolling off his tongue like he'd been practicing it. I like the sound of that, she admitted, though she'd decided professionally she'd go by Harper Sterling. So do I. Dance with me. The reception was being held in a massive tent that had been transformed into something magical. Thousands of fairy lights hung from the ceiling like stars, while round tables dressed in ivory linens and gold accents surrounded a polished dance floor. The centerpieces were low arrangements of white roses and peonies, their flowers mixed with greenery and gold accents. As the band launched into The Way You Look Tonight, their song, the one they'd danced to at that first charity gala, Alexander led Olivia onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. "No pressure this time," she said as they began to move together, her dress swirling around them. "No fake anything this time," he agreed, pulling her closer. "Just us." They danced in comfortable silence for a few moments, both lost in the surreal reality of actually being married. Around them, their guests watched with obvious delight, phones and cameras capturing the moment from every angle. "Any regrets?" Alexander asked quietly. "About marrying you?" "Never." "About the fake engagement?" "If we hadn't done that. We might have figured this out eventually anyway," Olivia considered. "Maybe. But I don't think so. You were my demanding boss. I was your argumentative employee. Without the fake engagement forcing us to spend time together, to really see each other, I think we might have stayed stuck in those roles forever. So no regrets about accidentally getting engaged to me in front of the entire company? Best mistake I ever made." The song ended, and their guests applauded before the band launched into something more upbeat. Soon the dance floor was full of family and friends celebrating, laughing, and making memories that would last a lifetime. Olivia found herself swept into dances with her father, Ethan, Marcus, and even Eleanor Sterling, who, despite being 80 years old, had better rhythm than most people half her age. "You've made him so happy, dear," Eleanor said as they swayed together to a slower song. "I haven't seen Alexander smile this much since he was a boy. Hess made me happy too. Thank you for accepting me into your family." "Accepting you, darling? I claimed you as my granddaughter the moment I met you. You're exactly what that boy needed, someone with enough backbone to keep him honest and enough heart to keep him human." As the evening progressed, there were toasts that ranged from hilarious Ethan's story about Alexander's attempt to help with yard work at the Harper house, to heartfelt Marcus talking about how Olivia had brought out the best in his best friend. Olivia's father spoke about watching his daughter find not just love but a true partner, while Eleanor shared stories about Alexander's childhood that had him blushing and everyone else in stitches. The cake cutting was an adventure, a three-tiered masterpiece decorated with sugar peonies that was almost too beautiful to eat. Almost. Alexander managed to get frosting on Olivia's nose, which led to her retaliating by smearing some on his cheek, much to the delight of the photographers and guests. As the night wound down, Olivia found herself standing on the edge of the dance floor, watching their loved ones celebrate. Children were running around in their fancy clothes, elderly relatives were sharing stories in small clusters, and the younger crowd was still dancing energetically to the band's increasingly contemporary song choices. Overwhelmed? Alexander appeared beside her, loosening his bow tie slightly. "In the best possible way. This is perfect, all of it. Even the part where your cousin Miguel challenged my college roommate to a dance battle, especially that part. Did you see Eleanor cheering them on?" They stood together watching their families, now one big, chaotic, wonderful family, celebrate around them. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked. "Everything. How different things are from 6 months ago. How scared I was that first day, thinking it'd completely destroyed my life. Instead, you completely changed it." We both did. As the evening came to an end, they said goodbye to their guests with hugs, kisses, and promises to see everyone soon. Eleanor was among the last to leave, pressing a small wrapped package into Olivia's hands. "For your first home together," she said. "Open it when you're ready to start the next chapter." Their honeymoon wouldn't start for another week. They were spending a few days in a suite at the plaza, before flying to Italy for 2 weeks of complete relaxation. But tonight they were going to Alexander's brownstone, their brownstone now, to begin their real life as husband and wife. In the car on the way back to the city, Olivia kicked off her heels and curled up against Alexander's side, still wearing her wedding dress but feeling completely relaxed for the first time all day. "Open Eleanor's gift," Alexander suggested, nodding toward the small package shed set on the seat beside her. Inside was a small silver picture frame, containing a photo Olivia had never seen before. Alexander's grandparents on their wedding day, looking impossibly young and radiantly happy. The inscription on the frame read, "Love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone perfect for you. Welcome to the family, granddaughter. Eleanor, she really loves you," Alexander said, reading over her shoulder. "I love her too, your whole family actually. I never expected that. What did you expect?" "I don't know." that they'd be more like the people in the society pages, cold, judgmental, focused on appearances. Some of them are. But the ones who matter care more about character than connections. They pulled up to the Brownstone, a beautiful 4-story building in the Upper East Side that Olivia was still getting used to thinking of as home. They'd been living separately until the wedding, wanting to maintain some traditions even as they'd upended others. "Ready to carry me over the threshold?" Olivia asked as they stood in front of the familiar blue door. "Always," Alexander said, sweeping her up in his arms with an ease that made her laugh. Inside, the house was quiet and peaceful, a stark contrast to the joyful chaos of the reception. Someone, probably David, Alexander's remarkably efficient assistant, had arranged for flowers to be placed throughout the house, and there was a bottle of champagne chilling in an ice bucket on the kitchen counter. "Welcome home, Mrs. Sterling," Alexander said, setting her down in the front hallway. "Welcome home, Mr. Sterling," she replied, reaching up to finally straighten his crooked bow tie. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, both still a little stunned by the reality of actually being married. "So," Olivia said eventually, "what do married people do on their wedding night?" "I hear they talk about their feelings and make plans for the future." He grinned. "Sounds scandalous. Absolutely shocking." They opened the champagne and settled on the couch in their living room. Olivia's dress spread out around her like a princess in a fairy tale. They talked about the wedding, about their favorite moments, about how proud they were of how everything had come together. "I have something for you," Alexander said eventually, pulling out a small wrapped box. "We said no more gifts until Christmas. This doesn't count. Open it." Inside was a key, old and slightly tarnished, clearly an antique. "What's this for?" "The lake house, my family's place in the Adirondacks. It's been empty for years, but I thought maybe we could make it ours. Fix it up. Make it a place where we can escape when the city gets too overwhelming." Olivia turned the key over in her hands, imagining lazy summer weekends, autumn hikes, cozy winter evenings by a fireplace. "I'd love that," she said. "Our own little retreat. Our own little kingdom," Alexander agreed. "Where no one can bother us about quarterly reports or board meetings or society events. Just us, and nature and terrible cell phone reception. Perfect." As the night grew later, they finally headed upstairs to the master bedroom, their bedroom now. Olivia had moved most of her things in over the past few weeks, but it still felt surreal to see her books on the nightstand next to Alexander's, her photos mixed in with his on the dresser, her robe hanging next to his in the walk-in closet. "I can't believe we're really married," she said as Alexander helped her out of her wedding dress, a process that required patience and several bobby pins to release her from Eleanor's vintage gown. "I can't believe we almost weren't. If you hadn't pointed at me that day, we would have found each other eventually," Olivia said confidently. "The universe wouldn't have let us miss out on this." "You think so?" "I know so. We were meant to be." Alexander. All of it, the fake engagement, the real feelings, the wedding, this life we're building together, it was always going to happen. Later, as they lay in bed together, officially husband and wife, no more pretending, no more contracts, just love and commitment and the promise of forever, Olivia thought about the journey that had brought them here. 6 months ago, she had been a single marketing manager living in a tiny apartment, going through the motions of a life that felt incomplete. She had been scared of taking risks, convinced she wasn't good enough for anything extraordinary, resigned to being ordinary. Now she was Mrs. Olivia Harper Sterling, senior marketing director at one of Manhattan's most successful companies, living in a beautiful brownstone with the man she loved more than she'd ever thought possible. She was part of a family that accepted her completely, building a life that exceeded her wildest dreams. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked, his arm tightening around her. "How much has changed? How different everything is." "Better? So much better. Even the scary parts." "What scary parts?" Olivia considered this, being in the public eye, having people scrutinize our relationship, merging our lives so completely that there's no going back. "Having second thoughts?" "Never. But sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd chickened out that first day, or if you'd called me on the lie instead of playing along. I'm glad you didn't chicken out. I'm glad I played along. I'm glad we were both brave enough to take the risk. Even though it started as a lie, the engagement was a lie. But everything else, how we felt, how we supported each other, how we fought for what we built together that was real from the beginning. Olivia snuggled closer to her husband, still marveling at the word, "I love you, Alexander Sterling." "I love you too, Olivia Harper Sterling. Forever and always." Forever and always. Outside, New York City hummed with its usual energy, millions of people pursuing their own dreams, facing their own challenges, writing their own love stories. But inside their brownstone, in their bedroom, in their marriage, everything was peaceful and perfect, and exactly as it was meant to be. The fake engagement had lasted 6 weeks. The real marriage would last a lifetime. And it had all started with 5 seconds of panic, a desperate lie, and the courage to point at a stranger and call him her fiancé. Sometimes, Olivia thought, as she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, the best love stories began with the most improbable circumstances. Sometimes the biggest risks led to the greatest rewards. And sometimes, when you stopped trying to control everything and just followed your heart, you found exactly what you didn't know you were looking for. 1 year later, "Olivia, where did you put the—" Alexander stopped mid-sentence as he walked into their kitchen and found his wife standing by the window, holding something in her hands with an expression of wonder on her face. "The what?" she asked distractedly, not turning around. The quarterly projections for He never finished, because she turned to face him, and he saw that she was holding a small white stick. Tears were streaming down her face. "Remember how we talked about expanding our family?" she said, her voice shaky with emotion. Alexander's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Are you?" "I'm pregnant," she whispered. "We're having a baby." He crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, sweeping her up in his arms and spinning her around while she laughed through her tears. "A baby," he said, setting her down and placing his hands gently on her still flat stomach. "Our baby. Are you happy? Happy, Olivia?" "I'm over the moon. I'm terrified and excited and so in love with you I can barely think straight." "Good," she said, resting her forehead against his, "because this baby is going to change everything. The best changes always do." As they stood there in their kitchen, holding each other and marveling at the new life they'd created, Olivia couldn't help but think about how far they'd come. From fake fiancés to real spouses to expectant parents, their love story just kept getting better. And this little miracle growing inside her was only the beginning. The end.